I'm joined by 365 Hockey Girl, the go-to content girl for everything PWHL. For those that don't know, that stands for the Professional Women's Hockey League. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm very excited. We're going to do a little bit of a WNBA PWHL crossover. I'm a big basketball girly. You're the hockey girly. So the first thing we have up is a game. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So we're going to name two rules from each of our corresponding sports, and the other person has to try to guess what it means.
I'm kind of scared. I'm going to be exposed for like not knowing basketball rules.
It's okay. It's okay. Okay. So do you want to go first or do you want me to go?
No, you go first.
Okay. So I'll tell you the basketball rules and you try to guess.
Uh-huh.
Okay. The first basketball rule, it's called the 3-second rule.
Is this where like the ball is like loose for 3 seconds? Like it's like nobody has it? Is that something? Like, let me think.
I feel like that's also almost never happens.
Wait, can you give me a hit? Can you give me a hit?
Yeah, so it's when like offense has the ball and they can get called for it.
Oh, is it you can I feel like you can hold on to it for more than 3 seconds though.
Yeah, you can. I was trying to pick ones that are harder that like
No, you should.
That most people don't know, but also some people do know it.
Can you give me more hints?
More hints? Okay. Last hint, and then I'll just tell you what it is. Post player. I'll say that. Does that help? Post players are in the paint. Post players are in the paint.
No, I don't know what it is.
Okay. When you're on offense, there's like under the basket, there's like a square.
Uh-huh.
So if
you can only be in the square for 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay,
exactly.
okay.
So if you're in that square, which is obviously like the closest point to the basket, basically, like you have 3 seconds when your team is on offense. And you have to be like out of there. They don't want people like just hanging in there. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Okay, so 0 for Ava. 0.
Okay, should I do my rule next?
Yeah, we can flip.
Okay, do you know what the jailbreak rule is? It was in the zine.
I actually did read your zine. I don't know if that's like cheating, but I was also like, you put a lot of work into it, so I spent time going through it. Isn't it when basically like if the other team scores, you get to leave the penalty box? Or no, when your team scores, you get to leave the penalty box.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
She's an expert.
No, I just read your zine. Okay, yeah. So basically someone gets in the penalty box for doing something illegal. But then if your team, because then you're down a player, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if your team happens to score, then you're good. You get to leave.
Yeah, and some like details about it is that it only applies to minor penalties, not major penalties, and it only exists in the PWHL.
Ooh,
not in the NHL.
Okay, so what's an example of like a minor penalty versus a major penalty?
So a minor penalty would be like tripping. A major penalty would be like it can depend on the severity. So there's like some penalties like boarding that can be like either minor or major depending on the severity, or like in the PWHL like illegal check to the head. That one is major.
Okay. So like if someone like uses their stick to maybe like trip someone.
Yeah, that's just minor.
Minor. Okay. And you can kind of tell from the vibe if it's like, whoa, you shouldn't be
doing that. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Next basketball rule. Over and back.
Oh, I feel like I know this one. It has to do with like, I know this one. So it's like when I don't know exactly, but it's like you have to go to one side of the court and then come all the way back before you can score.
I was like, wait, what?
Is that something? Okay, maybe.
No, I don't think so. Basically, it's like, okay, so when the team is bringing it up on offense and they pass half court, you can't go back.
Okay, that's I was getting closer.
Yeah, you were close, but not quite. But yeah, basically, like if you pass half court, like it's a violation for you to then go back the other way. Okay. Which is like obviously you're not trying to go back the other way because that's the other team's basket. But there are occasions where it's like if it's getting close for some reason and someone steps over or someone passes it too soon. It doesn't happen rarely in like professional. It happens a lot more like high school level, middle school level. But yeah, it's called over and back rule.
Okay. Honestly, once you explained that made a lot more sense than what I was saying. Because I knew it had to do with...
Yeah, because I was like, wait, once someone's over, why are they going back? It's kind of like flipped, I think.
I'm going to do no escape rule. Do you know that one?
Oh, no, I don't.
That was also in the scene, but it's like
okay.
a little bit harder.
Then I just forgot. Okay, no, that basically means you're stuck in the penalty box, right? From a major penalty?
So you're getting more because it's kind of related to penalty. It's definitely related to penalties.
Is it like when your team has too many penalties in the same game?
No. So basically, do you want me to just tell you what it is?
Yes.
Okay, so basically, it's another rule that only exists in PWHL, not in NHL. But when you're on the penalty kill, so when you have one of your players in the box, you only have 4 players remaining, right? Mm-hmm. You were on the ice at the time when the penalty was committed. You can't go off to the bench and sub in like a specialized penalty kill unit.
Okay.
If you were on the ice when the penalty was taken, you can't escape. You're trapped. And that can be bad because
if you subbing in and out, you get exhausted.
Exactly. So if you were already tired from like a delayed penalty earlier, you're already gassed. And now you're like, now I have one less person.
That definitely makes sense. There's a lot of rules in hockey, and it's very different than other sports.
There's a lot of rules in basketball.
Yeah, it's true. That's true. It's probably just like the unfamiliarity.
Yeah, I think the special teams are really interesting in hockey with like the penalties and like removing a player as compared to like fouling mechanics in basketball.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about like in basketball if they had some kind of like penalty box situation.
Yeah, I feel like that would be kind of fire. Like maybe they should have that in Unrivaled, low key.
Oh my god. Right. I mean, yeah, that's somewhere where you can implement it. It's like they just have this little box, and if like instead of like where you're falling out, it's just kind of like you have to go.
Yeah, you have to go sit in the box, and then maybe after you're done, you can come back.
Yeah, exactly. So now we're going to talk about still crossover between the W and PWHL. That's actually not easy to say. It does like not roll off the tongue.
I know. It's hard. I feel like people say PW. I've heard people start to say PW.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to have to. Because it's also long to say Professional Women's Hockey League, too. We're going to talk about, some of the differences, because there's a lot of differences in terms of like social media popularity, traditional media coverage, and then like sponsorship opportunities. Obviously, we know the PWHL is much, much newer than the WNBA, but it's also growing really quickly, even though it's young. So what are your like initial thoughts, opinions on, again, like popularity you see on social media, since you cover it a lot? You're like the go-to, I want to say the only person really that's like dedicated to PWHL content. And then also like what you see with traditional media coverage.
Yeah, let's just start with social media. I feel like there's 2 main things. The first one is that like in the same way that WNBA has paved the way for PWHL, just in terms of like the league's popularity, I feel like WNBA content creators have paved the way for like people like me or like people trying to do social media for other sports, because even though like PWHL is still kind of newer, I can look to you for inspiration of like what types of content to make, what are people talking about. There's a lot of crossover. So shout out to you.
Yeah, I never really thought about it like that, but yeah, I guess like looking at what are WNBA content creators covering, what's working for them, and that's going to help you come up with your strategy and also help you grow. So yeah, I love that. Yeah. Thank you. I also look to you, honestly, because you're really good at, I feel like, resonating with people, and people love interacting with you, which is like the big thing about content creation, right? Is like you want to get engagement, you want to get followers, but people just seem genuinely like interested in engaging with your content, and you also engage back, which I think is great.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Oh, the second thing I want to talk about that I think is really different from hockey social media is like the Canada and US of it all.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like the international aspect, because I think as Americans, like when I think of basketball, or especially when I think of WNBA, obviously WNBA is going to have a team in Toronto, but when I think of WNBA, I think America, right? Like basketball is just so popular here. Mm-hmm. compared to like hockey, when you think of hockey, you think Canada. And obviously, like U.S. women's hockey is really popular and it's definitely like exploding.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of like people's first thought is going to be Canada. And even when you look at like, obviously the first ever like U.S. national broadcast was yesterday.
Yeah.
For the PWHL, it's just super exciting.
Yeah.
But like when you go to Canada, it's like that's already on TV.
Yeah.
Right?
So they broadcast all the games for PWHL?
Yeah.
Okay. That's amazing. Yeah, that's a really good point of like hockey's really popular in Canada. We know that. And it's kind of popular in America, but not as much.
So that's the thing, like to me, I'm like, it's popular. Then I'm like talking to like other people and it's like, no, this is not popular.
Actually, yeah, I think I saw something somewhere that was like, even so, if we're going to look at men's sports, hockey is like the least popular of the major sports.
I think I saw something that said WNBA has like more viewers than like NHL.
And I think they're like creeping up on baseball as well.
Yeah.
So I think like baseball and hockey are like the least popular. But yeah, basketball, very big in America and Europe. I would say like basketball's big in Europe. Americans don't really know that because I don't think we really like pay attention too much or care too much until they become so good they come to America, like Luka Doncic or like a Dominique Malunga. Then it's like, oh, we know who they are because they're like in the draft here or whatever. But they've been like slain over in Europe, and we just don't hear about them yet or pay attention to the European leagues. We're only getting a WNBA team in Canada for the first time this year.
Yeah.
Like literally this year. It hasn't even happened yet. The season hasn't started. So shout out to the Toronto Tempo. So we talked about this a little bit. We're going to get into expansion teams for both the W and the PWHL because there's exciting things happening for both. We already talked about WNBA. So new teams this year, Toronto Tempo, Portland Fire, and then there's already other new teams for even future seasons. Cleveland, Philly, I want to say, Detroit, and I might be missing one more. And PWHL is expanding very quickly. Seattle Torrent was the most recent expansion team, and then like how many? There one or two more teams in the coming years?
Oh my God! So this past year we had the league started with 6 teams, then it expanded by 2 more teams this past year to Seattle and Vancouver, and then there's been rumors that they're going to expand by 4 more teams.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Of like, how old is PWHL? Like 3 years?
It's in its 3rd year.
Yeah. Like started in 2023 and they're already expanding to almost 10 teams.
Yeah.
Like
it's crazy. It's crazy.
It is moving. Like if we were to look apples to apples of like the WNBA's first 3 years to the PWHL's first 3 years, like it is moving way faster.
But the thing is like without like Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark, like that draft and that explosion, like I don't think that there would be like the excitement and the investment necessarily around PWHL.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it's all basketball, but I feel like basketball, I was listening to your other podcast episode where you were talking about how basketball sets the tone, and I'm like, it absolutely does.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, well, that whole boom of like what happened in 2023, which is actually funny because that's the year that PWHL started, like, yeah, that absolutely affected other sports too. And I feel like that isn't a conversation that's necessarily being had too much. Now with the CBA, it is because everyone's like, oh yeah, the CBA is big for other sports too. And I know that the NWSL, so the National Women's Soccer League, also had a very historic like contract negotiation a couple of years ago too. So that was also big. But yeah, I would say what was happening with women's basketball was huge, and it's definitely like trickle down. It's like trickling down into other sports too, like hockey, softball. Like we're getting professional women's baseball. Like we're just seeing expansion across the board, like with women's sports too. So I think that's really great. But I don't know. I guess the most like popular women's sports, I think soccer is still above basketball.
You think?
Well, I think in terms of like viewership, and if I'm thinking like worldwide too, like not just in the U.S. Soccer, women's soccer, I believe, because like women's soccer is also really big in Europe, like massive in Europe, and then it's pretty big here in the U.S. So I think women's soccer, I want to say, is still technically more popular than women's basketball, and then obviously we know like tennis, women's tennis is big. So I don't know if basketball is the number one, but it's getting up there.
When I think of like WNBA, for example, and I think this is a super interesting question, but when you think about like basketball, would you say like WNBA is like the quote unquote top league for women's basketball?
Yeah, I do think it's the best players in the world, the top talent, absolutely.
Okay, because I feel like with the soccer, the conversation is always like, well, you have some of your best U.S. players going to play in Europe.
For soccer, it's more neck and neck.
Yeah.
I think I think Europe has a slight edge. I will say just because they do secure like the best of the best,
and they can pay more, right?
I believe so. Yeah. Or they're willing to.
Right.
It's like everyone can pay more.
Right.
It's like who's willing to. But that is a big topic of discussion, and I think it's just getting more and more popular. Like Trinity Rodman almost went and left, and then they made sure to keep her here. So definitely more competition. Whereas I feel like with women's basketball, it's like it's not a competition. It's like there's a clear winner. But again, like European talent, overseas talent is slowly but surely creeping up on American talent for sure.
Yeah, and I think there's a conversation to be had about, well, is that a good thing that these two leagues can really challenge each other? When I'm talking about soccer, like they're kind of competing with each other, and that is kind of part of what's raising the salaries. Whereas like for WNBA, I think we saw that with Unrivaled, kind of competing with the WNBA, and that kind of
business competition
push things up. So yeah, that's always good to have multiple leagues.
Yeah, I think the business competition is good because it just keeps the leagues on their toes and also keeps them awake of like, yeah, you can't keep getting away with paying players dirt, when other leagues are going to come up and say they're going to pay them more. So I think it's all for the best. They probably don't see it that way though, because obviously you want to be the one at the top that has no competition, that's just, standalone, like almost like an Amazon of like sport. We talk about like where you think they should expand and why, and like some of the rumors.
Okay, number one, Detroit.
For PWHL.
For PWHL. If there's no Detroit PWHL team, like I would go crazy. Like honestly, I was surprised that they didn't expand to Detroit in the first round of expansion, but I was really happy to see them go west just because I think covering all the time zones opens your audience quite a lot.
Yeah.
But for Detroit, like almost 16,000 fans yesterday in their PWHL takeover game.
That's amazing.
I went to the Detroit game last year. I'm from Michigan. It was so amazing.
Yeah. Are you still going to be a Torrent fan?
No, I'm still going to be a Torrent fan.
Okay.
But yeah, Detroit has like been super consistent, and also like the production quality was really high. I don't know where they're going to play. Denver, I think, is for sure going to get a team. Again, nothing confirmed. But,
right. Rumors or top teams.
Top teams in
Chicago.
terms of like attendance, infrastructure. I don't think, my hot take, and I hate to break this to you, but like Chicago, like the first ever Chicago PWHL takeover game, that attendance was the lowest attendance ever of any neutral site PWHL game.
Really? Then it's also like, like how well was it marketed? Like how... Because it's like there's like a small budget, so I get it.
I think the big thing when you look at like marketing is like, first of all, there's not enough marketing for any of the takeover stops. But one thing I noticed was like partnerships with NHL teams. So like I think one thing that can boost the marketing is like I said, partnerships with the NHL teams.
Yeah.
And I think it's not a good sign that they didn't play their takeover game at United Center where the Blackhawks play, because you saw like in Detroit, obviously they had that huge attendance because they were playing at Little Caesars Arena and they're able to cross promote. And I think having a strong partnership with whatever NHL team is in the market, if any, is a huge boon. So
Absolutely.
To me, it's kind of like a yellow flag that they didn't play at United Center, because I think that if there was a will by the Blackhawks to have a construction partnership, that they would have played at United Center. And again, I'm super reading into things, but I don't think it's a good sign that they didn't play.
I think you're right
there.
I think you're right, and I don't know if it's like, did they try to play at United Center and like they got told no? Like were the Blackhawks never interested? Like did they just believe like, oh, like we're not going to hit the sales number, blah blah blah, whatever. But yeah, I absolutely think they should have played at United Center. And it's interesting that you say that, because that's actually the same thing with the WNBA in terms of like whenever the WNBA team is attached to the NBA team, it helps significantly. Like they play at the same arena, and just that cross marketing, because obviously we know the NBA makes a lot more money, technically has more fans. So when you can cross promote like that, like it helps the team significantly. And whenever it's not happening and there's two teams in the same city, it's always like, why not? Like, why is it not obvious that you're doing that to kind of help raise the WNBA? And even having like the NBA players talk about the WNBA, show up to the games, like that is like very instrumental. And I feel like that should be required.
Yeah.
It should be required. And I feel like the NBA should want to help the WNBA too.
Because aren't they owned by the same thing?
Yeah, the NBA owns the WNBA. So that's also why it's like, why are you not cross promoting? I mean, they are now. They definitely are more now than they ever have before. But it's like, okay, well, we've been around for 30 years. So like what was happening before where they were just like not interested. But yeah, you own us. So that I totally agree. I feel like United Center would have been a better experience for the PWHL, as we talked about. All-State is
we'll get into our talking about the game later. For the Canadian markets, I think what's really interesting about the PWHL expansion is because you're looking at US and Canada, right? Mm-hmm. So then the discussion becomes, well, do you go equal US and Canada? Because when you look at the NHL, they actually have a lot more American teams.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't they only have like 2 or 3?
Yeah, but then when you look at the popularity of women's hockey, like I'm saying, like because they don't have that US broadcast deal, I think that's an interesting wrinkle. Like, do you try to expand the US fan base, or do you build on a Canadian fan base that's already
I would go
stronger?
Canada. Yeah, I would go Canada first. I would focus more on Canada and then like sprinkle teams in the US, unless they can get the media deal eventually, right. Which I think they will. Again, it's just a matter of like time and building it up. But that seemed like a good experiment first to have it on. Was it Ion?
Ion.
Yeah. So that was good. I mean, I don't know if the numbers have come out of the people that tuned in, but I also want to touch quickly. And you said Detroit is likely to get a team. So that would be cool too, because the WNBA is
Detroit Shock.
Detroit. Yeah, we don't know if they're going to be the Shock yet. Hopefully they are, because it's such an iconic team. You want to keep it, but they might come up with a new name. But because there's going to be one in Detroit, I feel like that would be cool to have a new WNBA team and a new PWHL team in Detroit. So I would support that over a team in Chicago, especially if like more fans, are going to be there and show up consistently. Now we're going to get into the recap of the game we went to on Wednesday. So we went to the Chicago Tour Stop at All-State Arena. And it was the Seattle Torrent against the New York Sirens. So the tour stop is something that they do to kind of gauge interest in other cities, also just market the league and get interest from potential fans. And obviously they're stopping in cities that don't have a team yet. So Chicago doesn't have a team yet. What are your overall vibes of the atmosphere of the game, and then also like the game itself?
Okay, first of all, thank you for coming to the game.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'll give a little bit of my history first. But yeah, I live in Seattle, and so like before Seattle got a PWHL team, like my first experience was with like takeover tours, and then also
so they've been doing it already.
Yeah, so they did a takeover tour in the I think, was it their first ever year? They did like Detroit. That was like one of the first ever takeover tours they did. And then this year is like by far the largest takeover tour ever, which I think makes sense, like capitalize off the Olympics and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, like they did a takeover tour that hit Seattle and Vancouver before they expanded to both of those cities.
Okay.
And that was so fun. Those were
so that is an indication of who's likely to get an expansion team.
Exactly.
Okay.
But yeah, I think this Chicago takeover game, I already went into this a little bit on TikTok, but I do not like All-State Arena. It was my first time going to a takeover game that wasn't at an NHL arena. And I do think that the arena makes a huge difference just in terms of production quality. Because I heard that at the first Chicago takeover game that there was like some issues with like the sound or something.
Absolutely. There was audio issues.
Yeah.
And just like lack of it. Like normally, you have like a full production of like an in-arena host, you have like music, like it's all very thought out and timed, right? And this you could just tell was not.
Yeah, and like there's a certain standard for PWHL, right? Like you want it to be really top-notch, really professional, and I think it kind of sucks when you have a takeover stop that doesn't have all of those things, because then that's everybody's first impression, right? Like, this is your chance to make a positive impact on people. People are giving it a chance. So you want that to be like the top best experience they could potentially have. And so like when I'm at this Chicago takeover game, I'm like, yeah, like this production is not what I would expect coming from Seattle, because in Seattle the production is so high. And even other, like I said, other takeover games.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting perspective, because as we were saying earlier, like this was my only perspective. Like first two PWHL games were only at Allstate Arena because I'm based in Chicago. So like that was my introduction. But because I'm a big sports fan and I follow you, like I was able to see like, oh, this isn't the norm. But other fans maybe where it's like they were just going for the first time, like, oh, this is interesting, let me check it out, and that's their first experience. Like that's bad.
Yeah.
Versus
that's
me,
not good.
yeah. And I was like, oh, I know other arenas are better. I know other cities like are better. Like I'm gonna keep going. But again, like I'm in a very unique situation where I'm just like a diehard sports fan. But yeah, Allstate Arena is very old. Like I grew up going there as a child. They have not remodeled anything. They have not remodeled anything. It's all old. The carpet's old. Like as you saw, you took a video of it. The seats are old and crusty. Like it's crusty.
Everything is. I don't want to be rude, but it's crusty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't think anyone wants their PWHL experience to be named as crusty.
Right.
So, yeah, I totally agree. They should have played at United Center. I wonder, like, maybe if Chicago doesn't get the team, they can still do the tour stop and then they can move it to United Center. Now that they saw that they can get over 10,000 people, maybe that's like the number they needed to be like, okay, now we can move to United Center. And also like the big thing, it's not in the city of Chicago, it's in the suburbs. So you have people, like most people probably fans, there are obviously fans in the suburbs, but a lot of people are having to travel from the city, which it's like transportation is hard unless you have a car, and then it's like parking, and it's just like, it's not a good location either. And the food options are not good. Like overall atmosphere, what are we giving it? Like a 2 out of 10? A 2 out of 10?
Okay, so I feel like the fans were still really good. Obviously,
Yeah.
the fans are always going to bring a good vibe, but yeah, like bad.
Yeah.
Probably 2.
Yeah,
I
wouldn't
bad.
give it higher than
Yeah.
a 2. But the game itself, now we get into the game itself was really exciting and unexpected. So you want to give a little background on Seattle and New York and why the game was so interesting.
You know, Seattle Torrent is in last place in the PWHL, going through some injury trouble, as you know, like Hillary Knight.
I'm pretty upset about that because I would have loved to see her play. Like I need to see her play before she retires, so probably coming to Seattle or wherever, because that was like pretty disappointing.
Yeah.
Like she's like the one player. Obviously, there's a lot of great players, but she's known for being like the hockey girl. Yeah, so basically, yeah, you were saying Seattle was the worst team going into this, so we were kind of expecting maybe not a win, but definitely not a blowout. I mean, 4-1 is crazy. They scored 3 goals pretty quickly before New York scored. So
yeah,
that was
3
exciting.
goals in the first period.
They were all in the first period?
Yeah, 3 goals in the first period, and that's kind of been a theme for New York, like starting early, like they've gotten scored a lot in the first period.
Okay.
New York, some quick lore on New York is that they were also the last ranked team in the first 2 years.
Okay.
And then they did a big rebuild in the draft and got a lot of young talent in the draft, which was really exciting.
It was exciting, yeah. I think with hockey, again, if we're going to compare to basketball, like obviously they don't score as often. Basketball, you're constantly scoring. So I like hockey games when it's like there's a lot of scoring going on and not like long periods of like 0-0. So I found that game to be really exciting. And yeah, I'm a Seattle Torrent fan now because they played so well. So
yeah, that was a
like,
really
so
good Torrent
impressive.
game.
I like the team color, so that's always a plus. They have Hillary Knight on the team. Also, I do really like Seattle. Like, I need to visit more because I do really like Seattle as a city. So, and when I think about the otother teams, I'm like, I'm not going to be a fan of a Canada team. I told you that.
I told Amanda she should be an Ottawa Charge fan.
Why?
Because I feel like it's just fun to be a fan of like a random team.
Yeah, not gonna be. If anything, it would be the Montreal team.
Yeah.
Just because I want to visit there.
Right.
Like, no, nothing statistical behind it other than that. Yeah, not a big fan of New York. So, what other? Boston? No, maybe Minnesota Frost, just because that is like the closest team to Chicago. So I would say, yeah, between Frost and Torrent. All right, so now we're going to talk about creating content. So we both create sports content, obviously you for hockey, me for basketball. But I also create content on other sports too. I realized like I was like, oh, I don't want to just pigeonhole as like just basketball. I want to do like other sports, but people should know me like still as like basketball is like the main thing. So we're going to talk about our inspirations, like why did we start making content, what inspired us, some challenges, and then future goals, like some things we want to accomplish, like what's our end goal, like how long do we see ourselves doing this, and what do we want to get out of it. So I'm gonna ask you first, Ava. When did you make your first video when we were like, oh, I'm gonna whip out my phone and record myself talking about hockey?
Yeah, so first thing you know about me is I was actually a really big Mariners fan.
Okay.
So like baseball, like I was like, I think that was like, I was also a Seattle Reign fan, like at WSL, but like baseball, I became really obsessed with because like right when I moved to Seattle, like 4 or 5 years ago now, the Mariners were finally going to make the playoffs. So like everybody in the city was really excited about it. And then, but I was a new fan, so I was like, okay, I don't know anything about this team. And I watched this YouTube video, like this Mariners YouTube video by John Boyce. It's one of the best YouTube videos on the internet. I'm not kidding you. I'll show you some of it later.
Okay. Maybe I'll link it in the description.
Yeah. But it was just so amazing. And then I learned so much about the team history, and it really made it so much easier for me to become a fan of this team. And then so when I became obsessed with PWHL, like I just started watching it. I think it was in the second season that I was like, damn, I really wish that there was like more videos on the internet that could just help new fans. Because there's like PWHL is so good, but I was like, when you compare a lot of women's sports to men's sports, there's just less people creating content about it. So it can be sometimes harder to become a fan because you don't have those resources. So I was like, okay, I'm going to try to make a YouTube video. So my first ever YouTube videos were kind of like inspired, but they were actually long form videos kind of inspired by that John Boyce video.
Okay.
And I also used to make like Google Slides. Like, you know how like Google Slides parties are kind of like, or PowerPoint parties are kind of like a thing now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would sometimes make like PowerPoints to show my friends before we watch a hockey game of like, okay, here's the 3 players you need to know.
What's your sign again?
Taurus.
Okay. I was like making your friends watch your PowerPoint before enjoying like, a game is hilarious.
Yeah, I would literally make like pre-game PowerPoints.
I need to see some of them.
Yeah. But
also that is helpful because it's like, you know, you teach them about the players, some of the rules, so they can like understand what's going on.
Exactly. So yeah, I started making like YouTube videos. So
you were like just sitting down like this on a couch talking to the camera? Like, was that your style?
No, it would be like game footage, and then I was like narrating.
Oh, okay.
And clipping.
Okay.
And then it would just be like random compilations of funny stuff.
So were you on camera at all?
No, I was on camera.
Okay. So when did you decide to go on camera?
Well, it was like around like Christmas time. Was it 2025? It must have been 2025.
That was this past Christmas then, right? Or was it the year?
Oh, no, 2024.
Okay. Because I was like, damn, you've only been making content for like 4 months or something.
Yeah. And then my sister was like, oh, you should make like short videos. Because I think I had been on TikTok and stuff. But then she was like, oh, you should just make short videos. And I was like, you know what? That's actually a really good idea.
A combination of both. Yeah.
Yeah. So then I started kind of making just random short videos. Sorry, I'm going really long-winded here. But then basically, so at the same time, I was working as a software engineer. So basically every weekend, I would make one long video every weekend, which was like honestly a lot of work.
Yeah. It's a lot of work.
But
it's so much work.
But I was so motivated. So motivated because I was like, this is like making me feel alive. Like I've never been more passionate about anything. So I was just making videos.
Literally, that's how I felt too. It's like, oh, this is the first time where like I feel like I have alignment.
Exactly.
And I'm passionate and like this actually means something. Like I'm working towards something that means something versus just having a job.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so that's how I got started. But then short form felt easier to me. Like I definitely started out as long form, and I don't really do long form anymore because I think long form is really rewarding. But specifically the types of YouTube videos I was making long form, like it was hard to distribute them because it would only be on YouTube. And then like the algorithm is not helpful, especially for women's hockey.
Yeah.
I'm sure you know this about women's basketball, but like a lot of time it'll like recommend it to random hockey fans, or people only watch it if they're like fighting or something.
Yeah. Long form to me is way harder. Like it's way harder because obviously it's like more work on your end, more hours that you're putting in, and then two, I think just getting people to watch your content for that long is challenging too, because like people are busy, people have lives, and also people's attention spans. That's why I feel like long form content, like it's much harder, but it can be rewarding and it can pay off. But short form is definitely like you could just like take out your phone, film yourself talking for like a minute and upload it, right? And it's just going to be like so much like less work on your end. And then also we know like it can translate and go viral much quicker.
Exactly. Like your reach, because you can post on so many different sites. Like I post on YouTube Shorts, TikTok, and Instagram.
Same. So those are the three that I use, yeah.
So you automatically get like 3 times the amount of reach. And it's so much easier to react to things quickly or just make something and say exactly what you want to say quickly.
Yeah.
So just like the cost to me creating something was so much lower. And it allowed me to experiment much more easily, especially growing as a content creator.
Right, the experiment. Because it's like, yeah, you're spending hours and hours making this like long ass video.
Yeah.
And it's like it doesn't like translate.
And then like 5 people watch it, and you're like, well, I just wasted 10 hours.
Right. And then like, yeah, the experiment part is like, because in the beginning, it's like you're testing so many different things, and it's like, it looks kind of chaotic. Like if you go back and look at my older stuff, like it just looks like chaotic because it was like, I was like, okay, well, I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm just going to like do everything and see what works, see what I like. And then you can kind of be more like concise and consistent over time. I really like what you said about how like when you became a fan of PWHL, you realized like there were no like resources for you. Like there was no content creators that you can go to and follow or engage with. And so you were like, oh, I'm going to become that person. And I feel like that was really smart and like very much needed. And I feel like you're very much, you know, like creating a lot of momentum for the PWHL because of that. So I think that's really amazing. And I'm like inspired by you just because you're like, you know, if we're going to talk about PWHL, like you're at the top of the game because like you're the only person.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
there's
you
definitely
got on there quickly.
A lot of other people like making content about PWHL. Like shout out Jackson Jills, but they're owned by the PWHL now. So, and there's also nobody else that's crazy enough to do it consistently. And
at the rate you're going.
At the rate I'm doing it because again I'm unemployed right now, so I'm like have unlimited time to make stuff that like most people don't have.
Yeah.
So
and I also like you're just passionate too. Like I don't think it's just because you have free time, right? It's like you're clearly passionate and you care, and that translates well with your content and with the audience that you've built. But yeah, there definitely are other people creating content. Like I create PWHL content, but it's like not as consistent and at the rate you are.
Yeah.
For sure.
Can I interview the interviewer?
Yeah.
I want to hear more about your content journey. I don't know if you talked about this in a different pod that I haven't listened to.
I have touched on it, yeah. I've touched on it with like, I did a solo episode where I got into it a little bit more, but it was a little while ago now. And then sometimes like when I have other guests on who create content, like we will like back and forth and trade stories and stuff like that. So my content journey. So I used the podcast really as like my base. I knew I wanted to work in sports and I wanted to like be more in the sports world. So like I grew up playing basketball. I started playing at the YMCA when I was like 5 years old. I was like the only girl and I was like terrible then. And then I got better and better. And I played all the way through college, actually Division III level. So basketball was like my whole freaking life. Like I remember there was at one point where it's like literally it was like my life. It was like eat, sleep, play basketball, and like that was it, which is crazy. And then obviously, you know, after college you stop playing, and so I just kind of like went into like I guess normal life or like life without basketball. And then I realized like as I was getting older, I was like, you know what, basketball was like always the thing for me. Like I always loved it. When I was younger, obviously, I was like, yeah, I want to be in the WNBA. Obviously, it was not good enough to be in the WNBA, and I'm only like 5'6". But I was like, I should try to work in sports, or I should like try to like work in women's basketball or basketball in general. So then I was like, like how can I get there? And like one of the ways, people do it is through creating content. It's kind of like a light bulb moment where I was like, okay, yeah, like I want to start creating content. And I really like sat down and thought about it for like months about like how I was going to go about it, because I am a Virgo, so I'm very like strategic, like let's plan. So I had like a couple of different ideas, but I ended up landing on like a podcast, and I was like, let me launch a podcast, because I feel like podcast is like very casual, right? We just sit, we have conversations, and it's a very kind of like chill way to create content. And I also like the idea of having that like as the base, as like my brand, right? The show is called like Hoops and Healing, so it's like I am the brand too, like as a creator, like Amanda, but then I'm also like part of this brand that I created, which is like the podcast / content brand. So that's what I decided to do. And also it was a really good way for me to like network with people. And this is something that we talked about too, is like I can invite people from the industry onto my show, ask some questions that I think, would help audiences, but also like low-key help me.
Yeah.
Like I have these questions, like let's just record it and let me ask you. So I feel like I'm getting like that knowledge too, almost like selfishly. So I like that idea of like, building community, being able to network with people, and then also working on like my interviewing skills and my networking skills. And I think that's big when it comes to working in sports. And so making content really tied in, because it's like that's how you advertise the podcast, right? Is on social media. So I had to get used to filming myself and creating content. And I decided to like do all this, launch it all. This was almost a year ago. So May 2025.
Wow.
So yeah, like
that's so recent.
Yeah, it's pretty new. Like it's been less than a year, almost a year now. So it's been a long journey, and I really try to like sit down and like think back and reflect of like how far I've come and like everything that I've accomplished. Like in the beginning, like I had never spoken to a camera before, never recorded myself, was not good at it. It made me like really nervous. And I remember my first video, I was like freaking out and I was like unwell. I like really had to push myself very hard to get it done. And then it was also like posting it too was terrifying to me. And now it's like so easy for me to just film myself and to talk on camera. And like I try to think about those things of like, wow, I've come like so far just by like, pushing myself, putting myself out there, making myself visible has like opened up a lot of doors and opportunities for me. And also the big thing is like I've met so many people like you and so many other like content creators and people. Like that's probably like the most amazing part. It's just like the community you get from just putting yourself out there, right? Because it's like, how are you going to meet people if you're not putting yourself out there? So yeah, I used to joke like I never had any online friends, and now I have like a bunch. I used to be like, oh, online internet friends, like what's that? And now I have like a ton of online internet friends, and the coolest part is meeting up with them in person too. So yeah, that's a general idea of like why I started and what the journey has been like. Yeah.
That's so smart. It's really interesting how our working styles are so different, because you're like plan. And then like I feel like what you came up with like with the podcast is like so smart. But for me, I'm just like, I literally had the idea to make a video and I made a video the next day.
Yeah.
Like I'm just like do, which I think can get me in trouble sometimes, but it's the complete opposite.
I mean, as long as we both start, right? Like how we started might be different, but the point is we both did. So I think that's great. But yeah, I've just always been a big planner, big strategy girl. So okay, so let's talk a little bit now about some challenges that we both face now that we've been doing this for a little bit, and then also our goals. We could talk about quickly some goals that we want to accomplish in the future. So what are some challenges that you face since creating content?
Just being directionless. This is gonna tie into my life goals, but just like I feel like I'm the type of person where I feel like I could do anything. So like I don't struggle with motivation at all. I struggle with stopping. Like I want to do every single thing, and then so I have to prioritize and be like, no, it's just not possible for you to do this. Like you need to take a break. Like even yesterday, like obviously with the big game in Detroit, and I was like, I want to watch this game, but then it's like, no, girl, you need to like go live your life, go hang out with your sister. We went to Comic-Con, it was really fun, and then I just watched the game later. Like highlights, watched watch it later. It looks like a really good game. But that was actually a big deal for me because I think if I was just sitting at home in Seattle, I would have just sat at home and watched the game and made content about it. So I think just like realize like you don't have to do everything.
Trying to think of some challenges that I faced. Definitely, I kind of talked about earlier, you know, like speaking in front of the camera, getting comfortable in front of the camera was big for me. And it's crazy to think about how like it's just so easy for me now, but it was not before. Technical issues, I always bring that up. Like that's a big challenge, especially with podcasting. I would say like, you know, when you're creating videos on TikTok, like there's been technical issues with TikTok, obviously, but with podcasting, just having to learn like the editing tools, like you really have to sit down and take time to like learn how to do that, and like uploading issues. And then sometimes I guess there's days where it's like you just don't want to film. But obviously, like when you hit content creation as hard as we do, you have to be consistent. I don't think you have to post every single day. Like I don't really believe those videos. I think like it's important to take breaks. And, you know, just because you post every day doesn't mean like you're going to like blow up. It's really about the quality of your content. So I think there are some days where like, I don't want to film, and it's kind of figuring out like, okay, like, do I take a break today, or like, do I need to like push myself and actually like, you know, like film the video I said I was gonna film. So sometimes the motivation of like being as consistent as we are is hard. What else?
Also comments.
Yeah,
I finally deleted my Twitter thing. I'm free of Twitter.
Are there a lot of haters on Twitter?
It's just the algorithm always shows people things that people hate, and then there's like a lot of bots and a lot of haters on Twitter. It's just too what's the word? It's a lawless land.
Yeah. It's funny that you bring that up because I actually purposely never gone on them. Like I have never been on Threads. I've never been on X or Twitter, just because I know how chaotic it is. And it's also so different than like more of like the video form platforms. And yeah, the trolls. Like I purposely did not ever go on them.
That's good. That's why you have such good mental health.
And I'm like, I'm gonna try as hard as I can to stay off of them.
Yeah.
I'm not on Facebook either. And really that's just like capacity reasons, because it's like when you first start, like I was like, I can only do so much. So it was like YouTube, podcast platforms, and then it's going to be Instagram and TikTok. Like those are the ones I'm just going to focus on, and I'm not going to worry about anything else. So I'm not on Facebook either. But yeah, the comments are interesting, and that is definitely something that you have to like build up the resilience for. I would say even you should work on it before you even like start releasing content, because that's kind of what I did, was like kind of like building up the like, okay, like you're going to get hate, and like you're going to have to figure out how to deal with it. Especially since we talk about women's sports, like obviously the classic men love to comment that like nobody watches the WNBA, it doesn't make any money. Like those are probably like the two biggest things that constantly get said about the WNBA, probably the PWHL too. And it's just like they're not even true. Like they are not true. And it's so funny because like now that the new CBA has been released, silence.
Yeah.
Like silence. I haven't heard anything. I have not seen anything. Like the videos I made about it have gotten no hate, because it's like they literally can't say anything now. Yeah. So those are just like, obviously it can be really irritating and frustrating. And I think it's just like kind of being able to like compartmentalize. I can like never say that word, but whatever. Being able to like, you know, like quickly filter them out. Sometimes I actually like will delete comments. If I'm
I delete comments.
I'm like, if it's really stupid or like, like hateful, I'm like, I'm just gonna delete it and move on. Sometimes I leave them. It really just depends. But yeah, that is something that is hard, that comes with the job for sure.
One thing that's really interesting on the PWHL side is I actually get a lot of hate comments about the WNBA on my page, because people hate the WNBA so much. I get comments on my videos like, oh, this is so much better than WNBA, and I'm like, what? Like I like WNBA. I don't know why you're coming to my page trying to be a hater. Like,
I think it's because it's so popular.
Yeah, and they feel more threatened by it, maybe.
Yeah, because like it's gained so much popularity, and it's just like way more visible than it used to, then yeah, people are just gonna hate on it, especially like men that are probably like not athletic whatsoever. Because that's the other thing too, is like people like to say like, oh, why would I watch the WNBA? Like they're not athletic, like they don't know how to play. And it's like, okay, first of all, if you were to watch like Asia Wilson or like Alyssa Thomas, you're gonna tell me they're not athletic is like insane. So yeah, that's another one where it's like, to me, I'm like, it makes no sense. Like it's so far from the truth that it's like, it doesn't affect me. You know what I mean? It's like there's no evidence behind it. It's actually quite the opposite.
I feel like my challenges come from like getting stressed about my goals. Like, because when I started creating content, I was really only creating it because I was like, this is something I feel motivated by. And I was trying to tap into that feeling because I didn't feel super motivated at my job. So then I was like, okay, like I'm doing what I love now, but I still don't know what my goals are, because I feel like by creating content and by networking and meeting people, I'm building new skills and I'm like learning different things that I like to do. But at the same time, like because I'm in this exploratory phase, I still don't actually know what my goals are. Like I know for sure what the goal of my page is, which is like making women's hockey accessible and inclusive and fun, which I feel really passionate about. Like, okay, yeah, I want to do that. But I still don't know how that translates into making money, which is like a big challenge. So I think trying to figure that out and actually figure out what my goals are, not just for content creation, but just like in life, is really hard and like intimidating to me.
Yeah, no, I think that's the really hard part, because I think we know like people can absolutely make a lot of money through content creation. It can be very lucrative, but it's not easy like any other job. Like it still takes a lot of work, and I think a lot of time. And I think people see like, oh, like this content creator makes millions of dollars and has like all these followers, but it's like, yeah, but how long have they been doing it? And you know, like how consistent have they been? How strategic have they been? So I think there's a misconception that like, you know, social media is like easy and anyone can do it and it's like my full-time job, but it's like, no, you actually like work at it for a long time, and be strategic about it. And then it's like, and then you can start like making money. I would say the big one is like brand deals. That's how most people make money. So like brands will start to notice your content because like they have people that they hire specifically to look for us. Like their whole job, it's called like influencer marketing person or whatever, like content creator, something. But basically their entire role is to go on the internet, find people like us, and then reach out to us to like work with them. And I would say like that's like the big chunk of how you make money. And like as you do it more and more and you get more and more brand experience, like your rate goes up instrumentally. So like the first couple brand deals, like you might not make that much, but then over time it's like that's when you can start asking for like a lot more money, and that's when it kind of starts to add up and you get, you know, that resume or that portfolio you're building with brands. And then on the reverse end is like you should be pitching yourself to brands too.
Yeah.
So yeah,
there's a whole business side.
Yeah.
There's a whole business side.
It's like business, sales, marketing. Like it's kind of exactly what we would do in corporate settings in a sense, but we're marketing our content and ourselves instead. And we're pitching ourselves instead. And to me, that sounds better than like a 9-to-5. Of like, if I'm gonna like work towards something, I'd rather have it be like my face,
right?
Or myself, or like, you know, me being able to talk about something I'm passionate about, which is sports. So it's like if I'm gonna pitch a brand, be like, hey, pay me. It's like, hey, pay me because I talk about women's basketball, and I make content on women's basketball. So like, you as a corporation should pay me. And then it's also like you get to set your rates too. It's like at a 9-to-5, it's like you have your salary or your hourly rate or whatever, and like maybe you get a raise once a year. Whereas with brand deals, it's like you're kind of like setting your rate, pitching yourself, and then obviously like, well, I want to say obviously, but you should be raising your rates with each experience. And then it's like you can also make money through the actual platforms themselves, right? So like once you reach a certain amount of followers or engagement on TikTok, like they just pay you to post videos.
They pay me only like $5
in the beginning. But that's the thing, like you have to keep going, and it should go up.
Okay.
Or
it
should be going up. You're not going to make like a salary to live off of from that, but it's just like another source of income. But I think people in the beginning, they're like, oh, I'm only making a few bucks or whatever. But it's like you just have to keep going for a longer period of time, and you can start to make more. I think you can make Instagram doesn't really, you don't really make a lot on Instagram anymore, and they're like really scaling back on that. But on TikTok, I heard you can make way more on TikTok. And then also YouTube is the one where you're going to make a lot of money.
For long form.
For long form, and then it's all through ad revenue. So once you reach a certain point of subscribers, right, you can start running ads on your video, and then like how many people watch your video and then see those ads, you get paid each time. So I have heard you can make quite a lot of money from that. But yeah, you need the viewership and the engagement on your videos.